power utility Eskom doubled its net loss to 23.9 billion rand for the financial year that ended in March. Now, this is from a revised 11.9 billion rand loss from the previous year. Eskom has implemented the worst power cuts on record in Africa's most industrialized economy this year, with outages of up to 10 hours a day, curbing economic growth and fueling public frustration. Now, South Africa's government has pledged to split Eskom into 3 subsidiaries in efforts to make the power utility more efficient. In February, the government agreed to take on more than half of Eskom's total debt to bolster its finances. Now, for the latest on the story, we take you live to our business anchor, Motheo Khoaripe, who's standing by with the Eskom CEO, Calib, Cassim. Motheo, a very good afternoon for you. Not good news coming out of what's happening at Eskom.
Yes, good afternoon, Paul. Yes, not really JSE-listed results, but these very particularly important for the country in terms of provision of power for the economy. We do know that we're currently in a power crisis, and really Eskom showing the long and winding road and grinding road they'll have to go on in order to get the power utility back to 100% even of power transmission for the country. A lot of losses are reported in terms of that 23.9 billion net loss in terms of what we saw in terms of sales going down, but also some of the factors that have caused that loss in terms of municipalities not paying Eskom what they should for services provided. We're now joined by the acting group CEO, Calib Cassim, to just break down some of these numbers. In your own view, you saying these are quite bad results for Eskom, but you're looking more into the future. What needs to be done to get Eskom to where it's supposed to be?
Yes, thanks for that, and good afternoon to everyone. I think as we've indicated, like you've highlighted, the generation performance influences our financial results. We've seen that in FY23, and even in our outlook for this financial year, it remains poor on the back of the poor generation performance. This then results in pressure being placed on your more expensive technologies like the open cycle gas turbines. Spending 30 billion per annum as the combination of Eskom and IPPs is significant. We need to reduce that. We've seen the performance in recent weeks and even in the month of October that generation is starting to turn around that in terms of the leadership of Becky Namalo. And as indicate, our view is look beyond 2024 as well into 2025. Number one, we need to drop diesel spend from 30 billion to, I believe, 10 billion or less. And then, as you've highlighted in the intro, let's deal with the municipal collections through the incentives that National Treasury has put in place. And last but not least, as Eskom and our own management, let's deal with our own efficiencies and dealing with the leakages. I believe those factors will contribute to turning around Eskom financially.
But the company was still able to report revenue. Of course, those tariffs in terms of electricity had gone up. What was the positive factor on that? And just update us on the energy availability factor and how that's helping to keep the levels of load shedding quite low.
Yeah, I think definitely having the tariff increases for last year, 9.6 and the 18, first and foremost, it allowed us to release the capex for the operating businesses in advance. We were never in this position over the last 5 years, and more important, all the operational requirements to commence procurement transactions much more earlier. That's the first thing. I think secondly, the EAF performance currently average of around 55%, but we've seen in the month of October around 60%. We're confident that the benefits that we've got from Kusile Unit 3 and Unit 1 coming back, with Unit 2 by the end of November and then Unit 5 by December, this is clearly aligned to what we said in the summer outlook, that we do see load shedding at worst case should be stage 4. The challenge for management is let's keep the trend of October going forward and then improve on that into the new year. So we're confident that the severity will decrease and we need many more days of no load shedding like we've seen recently.
A lot of the JSE listed companies in the country have spoken about the inconsistent power supply and how that has affected their own businesses. What can you tell them firstly in terms of energy provision going into the next year? But also, Eskom has some of its own problems in terms of paying for more expensive coal and more expensive diesel to keep the power utility running.
Yeah, I think over and above our own generation performance, what is critical, as I've highlighted, we need to unlock the transmission grid to connect these IPPs to, and transmission are looking at curtailment initiatives that should be announced soon. That is a positive. And then secondly, as the generation performance improves, we move away from this expensive diesel and expensive station. I think the last point going into next year, let's deal with Kuba coming back and then working on getting that extension. That's the cheapest power and the most reliable power for the country.
What does the future look like for Eskom when it is unbundled and the generation company is on its own, and we're seeing more and more of that IPP power coming onto the grid? What will the power utility look like then in terms of power provision?
So I think firstly, we do recognize that our coal stations will come to the end of their lives. We would need to give them a second life in terms of repurposing and repowering. But as Eskom generation, we want to participate in renewables and other transition technologies like gas. We believe there's a need for pump storage as well. It's helping us a lot to balance the system currently. And as the Minister of Minerals, Resources and Energy has said, and we wait for the IRP, there's a need for nuclear for stability of baseload. So as Eskom generation, we need policy direction in terms of where we can participate. Coupled with that, we need to engage with National Treasury on how do we then look to fund future generation projects into the future, but making sure we don't go back to where we become a burden to the fiscus.
You've looked at your employee structure. You had a bit of a reduction of the employees. Do you think you've shaved off enough and cut off some of the expenses that have been quite heavy on the business?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, we're always looking to be efficient, but let's make sure we have the necessary skills in the right areas, and we need to balance that. If we look at what we're costing the economy and the losses, that 800 staff, employing them on an optimal basis going forward will definitely pay back over a much shorter period compared to the losses we're incurring.
Now, Treasury was very strict in giving you the 254 billion for the Eskom debt over the number of years. Have you stuck to those provisions and demands that Treasury had? And what could be the likelihood or the positive of you sticking to those at the end of this period?
So definitely, in our past experience with the equity conditions, we make sure we comply. We've got a very good relationship with the National Treasury team. We're working with them on also improving our plant performance. We are confident that in meeting those conditions, importantly, then it would convert those subordinated loans into equity. And at the end of this window, we would see the overall debt decrease from that 430 odd billion to about 270 billion rand.
You spoke about the leakages, the corruption that goes on at the power utility, some of the spend that's not supposed to be happening. How are you going to rein that in to make sure that those few billions actually stay within the company and help improve efficiency? So
I think first and foremost, in terms of Eskom, we're looking to consolidate all our investigative functions into one unit. So there's an overlap and we can understand those trends. We're working very closely with the law enforcement agencies. We've seen in the recent past a number of arrests made, and this remains, as the chairman has indicated, a key focus in terms of the priorities for the board and management.
Now, there's been a talk around a revolving door at Eskom, CEOs leaving, others arriving. How is the group actually making sure that there is a pipeline of skills that is available, to choose from? I know you're still in an acting position, and the question was asked whether you're still going to be staying when we do finally get a group CEO.
Yeah, I think I'm busy with discussions with the board, and once we've aligned, then we'll need the support of the shareholder. That is my intention. But I think more importantly, we've seen currently with the leadership and the group executives that the performance is turning around. But over and above the performance, we're coming up with innovative ideas to contribute to this industry in distribution and in the transmission area as well.
All right, so that was the acting group CEO, Cassim of Eskom, speaking to the results that came through today. In his own admission, not the best of results, but really what they've put together here is just a guiding document of what Eskom is likely going to look like when they deliver on all their goals that they've set for themselves. Yes, there should be stability in terms of the leadership. We've seen Motheo Khoaripe coming in as the board chairperson today. In actual fact, his first day at Eskom officially, he laid out that there should be more strength in making sure that the leadership strength of Eskom stays, so that all the plans, all the turnaround plans that are put forward are actually dealt with by a group that stays together for longer. So those were the particular results that came through today. Of course, municipalities still marked down as a threat to the business, really, for not paying Eskom for some of the services that came through. But Mpho, really, Eskom at a point where it's still trying to give power provision, and if they tick off all the boxes that they've said today, we should see less days of load shedding.
Yeah, we look forward to those less days. Motheo Khoaripe, let's leave it there for now.